Welcome to Yes and Yoga. My name is David Ahern.
And I'm Adi Bachchan.
And today we have the distinct pleasure of meeting a lifelong friend of yours.
Yes,
Dr. Rene Powell. There she is right there. You have a friend who's a doctor. How does that make you feel?
I know. I didn't know you'd make it that far.
Right? Isn't that
Me
amazing?
neither. I know.
You guys went to TCU together, right?
Yes.
TCU.
Yes.
I tell everyone how you met.
Yes. We actually met at a orientation camp. So at TCU, they have this thing called Frog Camp, and they require you to go. And she was in my small group, and we had about 8 people, I think, with us. And I remember she said something at the very beginning. We had to go around and introduce ourselves. And it was something very outspoken. And as soon as she said it, I was like, oh, I like her. I bet we could be friends.
That's amazing. Look at that.
That was love after that.
Love after first sight.
Exactly.
And we
after
never,
first outspoken.
class-wise, never had anything together. Like if we hadn't have met there, we wouldn't have ever
Then went
met.
separate ways. And you are now an anesthesiologist.
Correct. Yes.
You drug people and put them out before they get surgery.
Yes.
That's nice. You get the good stuff.
I do.
I love this. This is
I
awesome.
get a 10-minute conversation and then
Boom,
don't have to talk to
out.
them.
How
Yep.
exciting is that? You have a professional career, which is, I'm guessing, stressful.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty stressful. And you have 2 young children.
Correct.
How young are these kids?
I have twin daughters that are 3.
Oh God! So you know where she's at, folks. You know what we're talking about. How is it raising kids and having such a high stress job? How do you juggle both those things?
I win some days and I lose some days.
Hey, I hear you, sister. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, just trying not to take out my stress from work on them is
Yeah.
always interesting when I get home. I try to be better about it. It's not always easy.
Yeah.
I have a really supportive husband. He's a stay-at-home dad, so that helps a lot. His stress level might be higher than mine.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I wonder why.
Who's ever with the kids the most,
Yeah,
usually.
yeah. I think his stress level probably is higher than mine.
Totally.
I think my job is easier than raising kids.
Oh, raising kids is actually very, very hard. We talk about it all the time. People don't have this conversation
Of
very
how
often.
hard it can be. Everybody talks about the joys
Yeah.
and the good moments and that, but there's some real hard times.
Let's have an honest conversation about kids, shall we?
Yes,
Seriously,
let's do it.
because
Let's do it.
here's the thing, and I've always said this: when kids are less, we get it. Every parent loves their kids.
Yeah.
We know. We got it.
Yep.
But when they're less than 5 years old, it is probably one of the hardest experiences you will ever go through.
Yes.
And no one talks about it, and you feel very alone.
Right.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
And then if you happen to say that this is kind of hard, people look at you like, what are you talking about?
my kids.
It's
You
such
don't
a
love your
joy.
kids?
It's such a joy.
I get a lot just having twins. Oh my gosh, double the fun, and
Oh,
I just smile.
yes.
Yeah.
Be-
Like you said, there's a book actually called All Joy and No Fun.
Yeah.
And I relate to that book on so many.
So many levels. Well, here's the life-saving thing I have to offer for you. When they get in school, it reduces it by at least 50%.
That's good.
Just so you know, because when they're at home, you can't get rid of those little.
Nope.
We can't say the word, but you get it. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, and I give her credit because I didn't come into yoga and meditation until my son was older,
Right.
and you started practicing. You've been doing meditating now, and you still incorporate it. Like even if you have a busy day at work, like
Yeah.
tell what is your home like? Like how does it look like in your schedule?
Most of the time, I have attempted to do yoga and meditate when my kids are awake. It doesn't work. They either are climbing all over me or asking me what I'm doing, which sometimes is kind of cute. They'll sit there and, do this with me or whatever I'm doing. But then they usually end up like falling over me and hurting themselves. So normally I put them down when they go to bed, and then I will usually either go sit on my bed and meditate or do it in my closet, which is kind of, because I also have dogs and my husband, and
Hey, that's
we've
what
kind
I
of
did.
had that.
Yeah, I would say I did closet where it's like you
Yeah.
literally have to just like, where's a space where I can
Yep.
go and be, and no one else is around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Were you
Yeah.
surprised when she became a yoga teacher? I was. I was shocked that she became a yoga teacher. That was not the girl I met.
What I appreciate about Audie is that she's always willing to listen, and she kind of will listen to all of my weird ideas anyway. And so in college, I think her and I kind of had more in-depth conversations, maybe not about yoga, but just about spirituality. So actually, when she met you, I can still remember the conversations we'd had on the
She
phone.
said, this guy is awesome.
She was one of the few I called when, because we actually met in Paris, and it was our first date.
Can I tell you this story? Do you mind if I tell this
Go
story?
ahead, go ahead.
Yes.
So I'm on this USO tour, and I didn't know what I was dealing with over here. I was texting her, and I said, at the end of this USO tour, I'm going to end up in Paris, and I'm going to be there for 5 days. Now, keep in mind, I've only met her for 30 seconds, 90 seconds maybe. I said, maybe you could come to Paris, hang out with me for 5 or 6 days.
He didn't know how yes and I was. When he said Paris, I said yes, and what day?
She did,
what day
too.
do we go?
And so the very first meeting we ever had, after I met her for the first time the next time was in Paris, France, room 23 in Saint-Germain in Paris when I met her. And we looked at each other. This is a little something for you folks at home. And we saw each other, and within 1 minute I kissed her, nailed it. And then we banged teeth together. Boom, our first kiss was boom.
We did, we were so excited.
So it could have either turned out to be the creepiest thing in the world or the most, the cutest. And so she's still here.
Well, and she was my call before I left.
I was in my anesthesia residency at the time, actually, and she's like, so I'm doing something really crazy. Do you want to hear? Sure. Well, I'm getting on a plane to Paris to meet this guy that I've only talked to once. I was like, okay. And you're already in the airport where there's no talking you down from this.
Yes, it's like, we're doing it.
So she told me the backstory. I was like, okay, so if I don't hear from you in so many days, I guess I'm gonna figure out who you are, and then I'm gonna figure out how to get or find you.
Right.
But ended up, she called me when she got back, and
it all worked out.
And said it was magical.
Yeah,
and
she did.
And
it was
I always heard about you, too. It was always Rene this and Rene that. She doesn't call you Dr. Rene.
That's all right.
Rene this, Rene that, Rene. But she says you guys have like a kinship. She kind of introduced Kundalini to you, didn't she? How did that happen?
The first time Audie introduced me to Kundalini Yoga, she told me about the Korean sadhana.
Right, which, by the way, is like the Mount Everest of Kundalini
Or like the
Yoga.
Super Bowl. It's like the biggest thing. And that's what I didn't, since I hadn't really been to classes, that's what I started with. I didn't know.
So it's one of the hardest things to do.
Yes, and her introduction was, this is what I do. She sent me an email and a PDF file about the poses and the chants. I was a little intimidated and basically told her I'm never going to be able to do this with my children and my job.
That's because you're a smart, sensible person.
Well, I felt a little defeated, but then I still listened to the music, and that's kind of how I got into it. And then my first job was incredibly stressful, and she kind of helped me through that, just giving me different chants to do and
just different meditations,
Kriyas
just
and
different.
What have you noticed from the practice? Because you know, here's the thing, and this doesn't get talked a lot. It brings up a lot of emotional things. It really does. And that's the thing, is that when you do this practice, there will be times where you're going to be faced with things that maybe you're not the proudest of that you've done. And you have to look at them and go, all right. And it's really interesting. And can you explain like
why that's happening?
Why does that happen?
So basically, if you think of yourself as like an onion, and we all have those layers, as you start meditating, you start kind of peeling back. And as you start practicing more yoga, you start peeling back and exposing more things and more aspects of yourself. And I've experienced it for myself, where I'll be meditating and things will just drop down in, and it's memories, and it's things that I have guilt over, shame over, things from my past, things from even as a parent that I've done where I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about that. Childhood memories. It literally starts bringing it up. And so sometimes people can get run away with their emotions, or you can just breathe through it and let it pass. And that's kind of what it's healing, and it's clearing to like kind of let that stuff come up.
So why do we want to do it? I mean, if it's this painful.
Why do we want to do it? Because if you don't, you store it into your body. You store your emotions. Any experience you have, you're literally storing it, and it can weigh you down and make you heavier. And so when we're practicing and doing different postures and mantra, you're actually changing the frequency inside you, and you can actually lift yourself of those heavy feelings. So even traumas, even deep things people have experienced. I'm not saying we can erase it and make that go away, but you can heal from it. You can literally change the frequency of the cells inside you to where you're not weighed down, because that's what's happening with people, is they kind of spur out and spiral out.
There's
don't
actually
realize that's it.
Kind of a medical explanation for that. So
do tell.
There are it's being proven that traumas are actually passed down genetically. I don't know if you've ever heard any about that, but like epigenetics, it's really big right now. So one, that's fascinating, but two, what do we do with it? And so they're actually starting to prove that even, which is why, another big reason why I'm in it. I don't want my children to inherit my trauma or my mom's trauma. And that's actually interesting. While I've been doing some of this, is kind of becoming aware of those, like, oh, this isn't even mine, this belongs to somebody else, but I don't want to give it to my children.
It's stored in your DNA.
Exactly.
Yeah, and even when you use the word aware, Kundalini Yoga is known as the yoga of awareness.
Yes.
So you start just becoming more aware of your own patterns, more of your own thoughts.
And that through yoga, so Kundalini obviously is what I practice, but just yoga, mindfulness, meditation, you're actually changing your DNA. And
Right.
they have proven that.
Yes.
And so they don't know how, they don't know why yet. That's obviously going to be a big area of study, but that's fascinating.
The yogis knew it. The yogis knew it for thousands of years, and
Right.
then now we're kind of catching up and
Right.
able to prove it.
Exactly. And then for people with trauma, which is big. I mean, I think we all have trauma, being
do.
passed down or whatever.
And different degrees of it.
That yoga is actually that same thing, just that self-awareness. That's how you can heal your trauma. Is
Right.
through, because it is, like you said, it's stored in the body, and we know that. And so
Right.
it's just fascinating to know that
Yeah.
there's a lot of like PTSD treatment, rape victim treatment,
Absolutely.
where yoga is finally starting to be incorporated.
Do you know that there is a Kriya called Kirtan Kriya in Kundalini Yoga? They've done extensive studies on this,
Yes.
and it's been said to not only help Alzheimer's patients, but I believe to reverse some of the effects of Alzheimer's.
And dementia.
They've been doing
And
a
that's
lot
huge.
of studies.
That's it, especially if you're the caretaker of a family member, of a grandparent, of a parent, of your spouse. I mean, that's huge to know that there is something that you can do to reverse it or even prevent.
And
if you're scared about that.
As you were saying, if we hold trauma in our DNA, if you have somebody who in your family who has had Alzheimer's disease, you can do this Kriya to help make sure that it doesn't
Change
manifest
your
within you. You can
DNA.
change your own DNA. That's the power of this, and it's greatly underappreciated and misunderstood in a lot of ways. But we can, and it's been scientifically proven, we can change our DNA.
Right.
These Kriyas, these mantras can do that. That's the thing that really is the most interesting to me, is that Western science can't really put our finger on it yet. They're trying to,
Yep.
but we haven't quite done it yet. Maybe one
Right.
day, we'll see what happens.
Right.
I think we've lost in Western medicine, kind of lost the mind-body connection.
Yes.
And I think that just this, especially for our mental health, obviously mental health is a big issue in our Western world right now. And so I think just making other people aware of being able to fix that through this stuff.
Right.
And being able to help yourself.
It can give you a new start.
Right, there's tools.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. When people get very, oh, I don't do yoga. Is it
Yeah.
religious? Is it this and that? I'm
Right.
like, it's a tool for the body.
That's all
like
it is.
It precedes all religion. Like it doesn't have any, you don't have to worry about that. I'm like, it's just helpful for your body.
There was also a study done just on chanting. And what I thought was interesting, so chanting, there's actually power in the word. They had a group of yogis chant Santa Claus, and there was no effect. There is medicine in the spiritual words we're
There are.
chanting.
Yes.
Even though
Yes.
there's kind of a turnoff, I think, because people don't know what they're saying.
Well,
but
it
if you
sounds
can
foreign to-
trust,
right.
trust the process.
That's exactly it. I was given the example where they were saying, if we could say the word table, table,
Right.
table, table, and get an effect, we would use that word.
Right.
But they're like, unfortunately, it's in a different language. It's
Yeah.
in
Yep.
these sacred languages that hold a frequency that your brain just responds to.
Yeah.
These sounds have been in the universe forever. And when you do it, it does, your DNA wakes up to those sounds.
So if we can get kind of past that, I don't know what this is, you can actually benefit if you try it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You're here, and I feel like we should put yoga to the test, don't you
do it.
think? Let's do it. Here we go. Ong Namo, and away we go.